Good morning, this is Shindo. Now, looking at the title of this video, you may be asking yourself, what is Shindo doing? I didn't think he was a Christian. Well, I'm not a Christian. Getting a little personal. At the age of 11, I first read the book of Revelation. Now, I was inspired to read the Bible by a dream I had at the age of 10. It was at the age of 11. It was on my 11th birthday, or thereabouts, maybe the day after, that I actually read the Bible. But in the dream that I had, and I won't go into too much detail, a spirit being in the dream, at that age I thought that being to be Christ, Jesus. I was young and I was a churchgoer because my family were churchgoers. At the age of 10, I had this dream in the spring of 1980, in which this spirit being that I recognized in my mind at that time as Jesus Christ told me to read my Bible. So it took me a few months before I actually did it. I mean, 10-year-olds don't normally pick up the Bible and read it. So at the age of 11, just turned 11, I decided to read the Bible. I skipped to the end, the last book in the Bible, and just read. I didn't know what to read, so I just skipped to the end and read. Well, as you can imagine, an 11-year-old who, through a dream, was told by a spirit being to read the Bible, he then reads the book of Revelation. You can imagine the impact that had on someone that young. Over the course of my life, especially shortly before I became enlightened, before I reached Satori. Enlightenment is the understanding of who you are and why you are on this planet. I received that in meditation. That would have been 6 years ago, this month, the 15th. Right before that, I was really more or less an atheist. Yes, I was an atheist. Didn't believe in God, didn't want to believe in any of this stuff anymore because, I don't know, I guess there's a certain point. Forgive me, I lived close to the train tracks. You know, us Illuminati, we like to live right next to the train tracks that wake us up all day and all night. Anyway, as an adult, I look back at these things as childhood fancy, nonsense. It took a while for me to get to that, but that's where I got. Then one day, and I'm not going to go into detail, then one day, if you're interested in any of this, I do have videos about my life called My Life. One day I became enlightened. In that enlightenment, I understood two things. One, who I am, why I'm here, and two, this is the end of the age. Now, I didn't understand immediately what that meant. I had fallen back. It was almost as though, these people that have what they call near-death experiences, and they come back and they have gone to hell or something, and they come back and they say, oh, Jesus saved me from hell. And you can't convince somebody like that that didn't happen, that it was just in their mind, blah, 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 whatever. You can't convince somebody like that it's all just some sort of trick that your mind plays on you when you're about to die. You can't tell somebody that. They know what they've experienced. So, I know what I've experienced. I realize, I understand that this is the end of the age. Now, I have been talking about Donald Trump for, it's been well over a year. It was at the beginning of 2016 that I pegged him right, that he would win, that he would be this Antichrist figure for this end of the age. All it needs, folks, is someone to step up and say, I'm it. I'm going to do it. And have that power. And it's not some cosmic power. The power that somebody like Donald Trump has comes from the people that give their power to him, just like a vampire, a psychic vampire that sucks the souls of the people who are literally worshiping the man. Now, setting all this up, Donald Trump is going to Israel this month. He's going to Saudi Arabia, he's going to Israel, and he's going to the Vatican. Folks, it is Revelation 101. Quote, end times, unquote, 101. That the Antichrist will bring peace to the Middle East. The Antichrist is a man of peace. Let me read this article to you. This is from the New York Times. As always, I will have a link to this in the description box. This stuff is happening, folks, and you're not... If you listen to my videos and you actually take some time and try to digest what it is I'm telling you, and if you're religious, so to speak, if you're spiritual, then meditate on it. Pray about it. You will get the revelation that you need. Donald Trump is going to bring peace to the Middle East, and when he does, that will be the beginning of what the Christians call the 7 years of tribulation. Folks, this is what's happening. Whether you are a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew or an atheist or a Buddhist like me. I'm a Buddhist, folks. I'm not a Christian. This is happening whether you want to believe it or not. And from the age of 11, I mean, by the age of 13, I was reading books about this stuff. Back then in the 80s, it was Hal Lindsey who was the big person who wrote. I mean, he's been wronged about so much, but none of them are going to deny that it is the beast, the Antichrist, the beast system, the beast being the United States of America. It is the little horn in Daniel, referred to as the little horn, which is one of the many horns that come out among. It's, all this cryptic, weird prophecy stuff, but that's the way it comes, folks. That's the way it comes, through dreams, through cryptic, bizarre, weird dreams. But there's a reason, folks. I assure you, there is a reason why we still know who Daniel was, or at least what he wrote. There's a reason why that's still there after 2,500 years. There's a reason why the Hindus can see these epochs, these ages come and go, come and go. They're all coming together, all of them. Hell, the Native Americans, the Hopi, and their prophecies. These are all coming together, folks. You don't have to be a Christian to see it. And I believe it's absolutely foolishness for someone to give you everything that's going to happen and then say, are you right with Jesus Christ? Folks, you need to be right with yourselves. Don't worry about Jesus. Jesus can take care of himself. You worry about yourself. The New York Times. Saudi Arabia and Israel will be on its itinerary of Trump's first foreign trip. You will find this, a link to this, in the description box. If you like what I do, please subscribe, comment, share, and click like for my videos. When President Trump announced Thursday that he would visit the centers of the three great religions on his first foreign trip, his advisors presented it as a sign that the United States plans to marshal a powerful coalition against the forces of intolerance. Wow. Wow. But Mr. Trump's stops in Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Rome are equally revealing as a contrast to the first trip to the Middle East made by his predecessor, President Barack Obama. The stark differences between that trip in June 2009 and Mr. Trump's later this month speak to how the world has changed in the last 8 years and how this new president plans to confront it. Quote, "Tolerance is the cornerstone of peace," unquote, Mr. Trump said at a ceremony at the White House in which he would go to, quote, Saudi Arabia, then Israel, and then to a place that my cardinals love very much, Rome, unquote. Isn't that bizarre? I mean, think about it. Saudi Arabia, where Mecca is for the Muslims, Israel for the Jews, and then the Vatican for the Catholics. Folks, he is beginning to pull them all together. And those of you who are liberal out there and cannot fathom what's going on, that Trump can do this. He will do this. Just like you didn't believe that there was any possibility, that Trump would win. And you didn't believe that there was any possibility that Trump would win. And he did. And again, I told you so. Mr. Obama also traveled to Saudi Arabia in June 2009, but not to Israel. The centerpiece of his trip was a landmark address to the Muslim world at Cairo University in the Egyptian capital. Mr. Trump aides said nothing about a speech suggesting that the president would mainly transact his business with leaders behind closed doors. White House officials said foreign leaders would be more willing to help the United States if disagreements over human rights and other issues were aired in private. They cited the recent release of an Egyptian American aid worker detained in Egypt, which was negotiated in quiet talks with President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Quote, Obama's approach was to build support with the Arab public through his Cairo speech, unquote, said Martin S. Indrick, the executive vice president of the Brookings Institution. Quote, Trump's approach is to deal with the Arab leaders, not speak to their people, which is much more comfortable for the leaders, unquote. From the first international trip by a president who is something of a homebody, Mr. Trump itinerary is ambitious. Aides say he would leave Washington on May 19th and stop first in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, before moving on to Jerusalem and then Rome. He would attend a NATO meeting in Brussels that opens on May 24th, and then fly to Sicily, where the leaders of the group of 7 will meet starting May 26. By this point in his tenure, Mr. Trump has already taken 3 overseas trips, visiting 9 countries. Mr. Trump is upending the recent presidential tradition of visiting Canada or Mexico before venturing elsewhere. He has hosted Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada at the White House, but relations with both neighbors are tense because of Mr. Trump's focus on trade disputes and renegotiating the North American Free Trade Agreement. In one way, he is hewing to tradition. Mr. Trump aides said it was important for the president to go to Israel right after Saudi Arabia, both to support a close ally and to begin the process of negotiating a peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians, which Mr. Trump, like Mr. Obama and other presidents before him, has made a major goal of his foreign policy. The trip was announced a day after Mr. Trump hosted President Mahmoud Abbas of Palestinian Authority at the White House, the latest of his meetings with the Middle Eastern leaders, including those from Israel, Egypt, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. While in Jerusalem, Mr. Trump is considering a side trip to Bethlehem to meet Mr. Abbas again. White House officials have shared little about their specific plans to broker a deal between the Israelis and the Palestinians, though there is reports that Mr. Trump hopes to convene a summit meeting of Israel and Arab leaders, perhaps in the summer. The president has asked his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to oversee the effort and appointed one of his lawyers, Jason D. Greenblatt, to carry out the negotiations. While Mr. Trump declared during his meeting with Mr. Abbas that making peace between Israel and the Palestinians would not be as hard as some thought, and that, quote, "we will get this done," unquote, his aides were more measured. Quote, "You have to try something," one aide said. "You have to take shots." The aide said that Arabs were more engaged in working on the problem than in the past, but that the president had an obligation to try, even if he can't succeed. Quote, "Whether we can or can't, it's our job to try. Oh, he'll succeed, all right. Take it to the bank. He will be the one who succeeds." One major change the aides noted is the strengthened position of Iran, which they said had encouraged Israel and its Arab neighbors to find common ground. They said that Mr. Trump's hard line against Iran during the campaign had restored the confidence of the Persian Gulf countries about America's leadership role. Mr. Trump plans to meet with leaders from across the Muslim world while in Saudi Arabia, his aides said. By going to Jerusalem after Saudi Arabia, Mr. Trump will avoid Mr. Obama's stumble in deciding to skip Israel. Yeah, a stumble? It was a deliberate F-U to Israel is what I would think that was. Many Israelis never overcame their suspicion of him after that, and his relationship with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu deteriorated into mutual loathing. Some of Mr. Obama's aides came to regret his decision, which was made after fierce internal debate. Folks, this is all being laid out for the man of perdition, Donald Trump. But Mr. Trump could also learn from Mr. Obama's experience in Saudi Arabia. Mr. Obama, too, traveled there first in an effort to extract reciprocal gestures from the Saudi monarch at the time, King Abdullah, and the White House hoped would facilitate new peace talks with Israel. Mr. Obama, however, was rebuffed by the king, who told him, quote, "We will be the last to make peace with the Israelis," unquote, according to 2 White House officials who were on the trip. Mr. Obama's aides laid the groundwork for his visit in March in a long meeting and a lunch with Saudi Arabia Deputy Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, sorry. A senior White House official said he was surprised by the willingness of the Saudis to work with the United States. The Saudis' stop will consist of 3 meetings for Mr. Trump, one with the current monarch, King Salman, a gathering of the Gulf Cooperation Council, which consists of Saudi Arabia and other Persian Gulf countries, and a broader meeting with Arab and Muslim countries. Saudi Arabia's foreign minister, Adel al-Jaber, who was in Washington for the meeting, said he believed Mr. Trump's, quote, fresh approach to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, quote, could have a very high probability of succeeding. He seemed satisfied, but not especially impressed, that Mr. Trump had chosen Saudi Arabia over a traditional destination like Canada for his first trip. Quote, it's historic, Mr. Jaber said, quote, but it shouldn't be a surprise given the nature of the relationship. Folks, when this happens, when this stuff starts really coming down, I'm not going to be here for you. I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to be sitting in this seat where I am right now, because I'm going to be out enjoying my life free from frankly, the bullshit that I have to deal with people online. You know, there's one way for me to not have to deal with trolls anymore, and that's, simply not to come online. Simply not to make videos. I mean, how often do I need to cast pearls amongst swine before I finally get tired of it? I'm tired of it. I debated whether to do this video because it's been about a week since I've been fully aware of this. I am going to give you a link in the description box. Those of you who made it through this now 22 minutes worth of video get a little treat. Now, this is a Christian that I'm going to give you a link to, so you can probably skip the last 2 minutes where he starts talking about how you need to accept Jesus Christ, which is, it's all of that stuff is just Roman Catholic paganism. Okay? You don't have to accept anything but yourself. You need to accept yourself. You need to go within and understand who you are. That's all you need to do. That's a lot. It's a lot more than most people are willing to do. Most people don't want to look at themselves in the mirror spiritually. They don't like what they see. Well, you have to look at the bad parts of yourself as well, your own demons, so to speak. I'm letting you know now that my constant videos that I do, there was a time just a few months ago where I did one just about every day. That's over. That's over already. But I may not even do another video. I may never do another video. This may be my last. That's how little I'm concerned anymore with YouTube and the internet in general, and the kind of people, even those who support me that I've met online. Understand this, it's nothing personal, because Buddhism appeals to me on so many different levels. Buddhism is about non-attachment, and I'm not attached anymore to YouTube. I was. I think I was too attached, way too attached for a Buddhist. So understand that it's not personal, but when you continually just knock your head up against a concrete wall over and over and over again, it's going to get to a point where you stop doing it. I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to be sitting in this seat. I'm going to be sitting in the driver's seat of my RV, and I'm going to be going all over the country with my wife so that she and I can engage with each other and not with a bunch of people who are usually best described as fickle. I can't tell you how many times my wife has been put on a pedestal by folks online only to be knocked back down. Okay? My wife is a decent and kind person, and considering her past, and I'm not going to get into it, I assure you, most people wouldn't be. By the way she was raised, her family, most people wouldn't be very kind. But she is. And she doesn't deserve the bullshit that she gets. Constantly. Constantly. Not to mention the fact that she is basically homebound because of her disability. And this is her world. So it's going to be very difficult for her. It's going to be very difficult for her to detach from this. But we need to. It is a matter of necessity to detach from this. And more people who are wise are going to see that. And you're going to see more and more people who are just going to just float off into the wind when it comes to the YouTube especially. Now, I will occasionally be on the internet while I'm out there, out and about, but I'm not going to be putting up videos. If I do, if I do, it's just going to be a vacation video. I'm not going to be putting up stuff like this. Not anymore. There's no reason for me to. There's no reason for me to. I have been talking about the, quote, end times now, consistently, every day, for 6 years this month. The revelation came on the 15th. Folks, it's been a nice trip. And it's drawing to a close. I've done every single thing I can for you. I can't do anymore. I can't do anymore. I have suffered your abuse by telling you the truth. And you accept it or you don't. I can't make you drink the water. I can just lead you there. This is Shindo. Have a good Friday.